If you need a little inspiration to create your 2026 budget, this is for you. I'm going to take you behind the scenes on how to create your ideal budget that you can automate for 2026 from scratch. I'm going to show you my real budget. We're going to create it together for 2026 with my income, my expenses, and even my investing and savings goal. Why, hello, I'm Carly, a finance grad and the creator of Best Money Class Ever. Here you'll learn how to pay off debt, invest, and stress less about money. Grab a seat. I'm about to spill the financial tea. If you are like, oh my gosh, I'm such and such age, I haven't started investing, I don't know how to create a budget, like I should know all this stuff, I'm going to break it down real simple. You'll do a little bit of work upfront and then you'll have something that you can just automate for the rest of the year and then touch base. My mentality is to become chief financial officer and manage your money like a boss. So I use the framework of financial statements. I will be using my financial day planner. I'll also be using a little pen and paper if you want to do pen and paper, or if you want to open up your own Excel sheet. If you like the exact spreadsheet that I have, it will be linked in the description below. Let's get started. To create a budget, you really just need to know three things. So there are three parts. That is it. We're going to just break it down real simple. You can follow along, like I said. Part number one is going to be your income. Okay, this is what you bring in from your job. And then part two is going to be your fixed expenses. So these are exactly the same each and every month. So a lot of budgets seem totally out of control and like crazy, but most everything that you spend is literally known. And then the third part is your flex expenses. So these do vary from month to month, okay? The three parts, again, we just have your income, your fixed expenses, and your flex expenses. So to create your budget from scratch, you just need to know these three things. So with the fixed expenses, there are subcategories. There's savings, which is your investing or emergency savings. Charity, which is regular giving. There's housing, how much you spend on your rent or mortgage. And technically utilities are variable, but I like to include those here as well. And then we have your insurance, which is also car, health, life, disability. And then we have your services. This is an area people tend to overspend. This is the cell phone, the gyms, the Hulu, the Netflix, the Prime, and then we have the debt. You will want to automate as much of this as you possibly can. And so, for example, if you have the opportunity to save before your paycheck, you would save, and this would be pre-tax deduction, actually. And then your insurance, oftentimes those are already deducted as benefits as well. Then for your flex expenses, those kind of break off into, I call them like two subcategories. Your operating, and then also we have what I call the life reinvestment. We will want to create a profitable budget where you can reinvest guilt-free. You can reinvest and spend on what matters to you. As CFO, if you're running yourself like a business, every business has just regular things that they have to maintain their business. So for you, that would just be your groceries. That would be putting gas in your car. That would also be food or drinks, because you're going to go out to eat every now and then. So if you get a coffee, you go to a restaurant, you have a happy hour, it's a friend's birthday, you go out. And then there's other miscellaneous, like, hey, you need an air filter, you're gonna run to Home Depot or something like that. I like to use cash for that. So I call this weekly cash. So there was an MIT study, you spend 100% less when you use cash. So for my operating expenses, I take out a set amount of cash every single week. And then you want to have in your budget a buffer to reinvest and spend on what you value. So there are subcategories for that, which is medical. So for example, for me, I'm like, I love me some therapy. I might have some co-pays. I might see my dermatologist for some skincare. And then there's maintenance, which is something that nobody likes spending money on, but you gotta do for your home or car. There's also projects like redecorating your home office or moving or a backsplash in your kitchen. And then there's celebrations. So that is like birthday gifts, weddings, baby showers, Valentine's Day, and then travel, and then also fun. So fun would be like paying for a concert or going to a comedy show or getting a massage. We have whatever does vary. As CFO, you can have a plan for that. You can continue to write your budget from scratch on pen and paper, but I do like to have a spreadsheet. And what I like to do is fill in what is known as the income statement. An income statement, also in businesses, is known as a P&L or profit and loss statement. What it does is it shows your income and expenses in a given period of time. So we're going to look at the month, and it also shows, are you operating at a profit or a loss? Okay, let me show you my budget. Let's create this together from scratch. Here we have your savings pre-tax, then your income, and then you have the categories of the fixed expenses, which is savings after tax, charity, housing, insurance, services, debt repayment, and then we have your operating flex expenses. And then this is a summary of P&L. So we want to create a profitable budget that you can automate. So what that means is for your fixed expenses, we'll just set the dollar amount and then we will make those auto payments so we don't even have to think about it. In the operating cash, I literally just take out a set amount of cash. And so I don't even have to think about that either. It's just going forward, having that profitability to reinvest whatever I want in medical maintenance, project celebration, travel, and fun based on what's going on in my life and my values and my priorities. We'll do a take home pay, a whopping big pay of $2,500. It really does not cost me that much to live. So if you're like, how does she live that cheap? This is the budget. Right now, if I were semi-retired, I would just live off of that budget, my investments. For housing, I searched long and far and I found the lowest cost housing that I possibly could and got the most bang for my buck. And so here in Austin, they have a lot of apartments that are doing like 1 month or free. I actually got a place that was 10 weeks free and it's prorated out. So my rent is just $874. That's the first thing that I'm going to enter here. And then I do like to get an average of the last 3 months utilities to use that to forecast for the upcoming year. I will tell you, I have not lived very long in this new place, so I don't exactly know. But the 2 months that I've had, this is what I've spent on the electricity part of it. This is an average 73.59. So I'm going to put that over here as the average. So for electricity, we will budget 73.59. And then water, I've only actually gotten one bill on water. And so that was 1979 and use that to forecast for the rest of the month. I do have a lot of fixed set utilities with this apartment. There's pest control, there's trash, there's like an HOA, and then they have a community fee, which is kind of like, not a fan. So all of those do add up to $59 for my total housing. It's going to be 1,026 with utilities, which I'm not a fan of. Definitely, this is a little bit more than I had spent last year when I lived full time in an RV. So up next, we have insurance. So a lot of people get some of these deducted from like a standard job. I will have here just renter's insurance and that is $955. I have car insurance and that is $123.11. And then I have health insurance. I just got mine on the marketplace and my income is lower, so I do get a credit. And then I search long and hard for the best deal. It's $215 per month. And then I do have a set internet for my apartment that is comes with the unit. And then for services, I have Class Pass, which is the thing where you get credits at different gyms. So I feel like that's a little bit of a splurge. But again, we have housing, insurance, and then my services. And then I am debt free, so I don't have any debt. For my operating expenses, this really takes the guesswork out. I have $120 every week, like clockwork, that I take out. and I get my necessities first. I spend $120 on these operating expenses. I spend about 40 on average for groceries. Put about $25 in my car. I physically take the cash and go up to fill my tank. A lot of times it's cheaper. And then I'll spend about $20 like going out to eat, takeout or something, and then 35 is just other. That is my basic budget. And then what you'll see here is the P&L summary. And so this is my total income, my total fixed expenses, my total operating flex expenses. The net income, I always want to create a budget that is profitable. And so I have $500, is kind of the bare amount that I want for anyone when creating a budget. So you can allocate that for the upcoming months, what is actually going on in your life. So $500 for stuff that happens throughout the year. The next episode, I'll show you how I expand this process to create an annual budget. But spoiler alert, what I do is I go into each month. And once I enter those income and the fixed expenses, it automatically goes through each individual's month for the upcoming year. So it's not a shocker how much my rent's going to be. I got an average of my utilities. I know my insurance, services, all of that. So those are already forecasted. And then just based on what's going on in my life, I'll allocate those extras. So medical, maintenance, projects, celebration, travel, and fun. So I have few trips and I want to see a comedy show and different things. I'll allocate those. But pretty much I've just created in just a matter of minutes a budget that I can just automate for the rest of the year. That is if I were living like semi-retired, my basic budget. I do, however, actually want to have $1 million invested. And so I'm going to do another video on exactly my plan to reach 1 million. I have about 514,000 invested with a net worth of about 550 plus thousand. So I have cash and a car. But in order for me to reach that net worth goal in the time frame, I actually need to invest $2,500 a month, which is going to be a really big push. But if you look at it this way, taking home $5,000 a month is attainable. So it's something that I think that I can do. When you're creating a budget from scratch, I do recommend having your basic budget with the income, fixed and flex expenses, and then going through and creating your ideal. So what that means is having an executive plan to cut, keep, lower, or increase each of these. So a lot of times when you first create your budget, you'll go through and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I have 1 million subscriptions and services that I didn't even remember that I had. So you can actually cut those. My budget is already pretty lean. But for example, let's say I would like, oh, I'm going to cut the gym. You would see the net difference over the year. The biggest thing is I want to increase my income of taking home 2,500 extra. And then what I would do specifically with my ideal budget is I'd be maxing out an IRA, which would be about 625 a month. And then I have a solo 401k plan, which is actually Roth. So mine would be after tax. I would do about 1875 in my solo 401k. When you first do a budget, this is what you think is going to happen. And then throughout the year, you will actually fill in what actually happens in your statement of cash flow. Your statement of cash flow shows the inflows and outflows in a month. And so this is for you to stay accountable and make sure you're spending money on what you value. Week by week, I kind of check in and fill in my actual transactions, and then I do categorize them over here. And just like that, we've created my 2026 budget from scratch. And hopefully you will create your 2026 budget from scratch as well. Now, here's where people get a little bit messed up, okay? Get stuck with budgets is they don't know, where do I start? They have all different goals. They want to invest, they want to save, they want to do something with their debt, they want to buy a home. They don't know which order of operation for these goals. So if you missed episode number 1, it's called the finance plan. It's literally your step 1, 2, 3, and 4 with money. So we want to infuse a plan with your budget. So first step with the finance plan is saving 10%. Second step is to pay off debt. Third step is to have your emergency fund, which is 3 to 12 months of expenses in the bank. And then fourth step is life purchases. So this is home buying, car, so retiring early. Works will infuse this into the plan. So if you are debt free, you'll save and invest all 10%. If you have debt, you'll split it up. You'll do 5% and 5%. And we'll put that into the pre-tax. So you'll do 5%. You'll actually invest before you have the chance to spend. It's called paying yourself first. So you'll do 5% before you even get your paycheck if you have a 401k plan. And then you'll do 5% after tax as a fixed set expense for your emergency fund. And then for step number 2, to pay off debt, we want to get the savings automated. We also want to automate your debt payoff. And so in episode 1, I explained the Spartan method, which is to pay $300 extra. $300 is like the Spartans, and basically that will go towards your highest interest debt each and every month. So here, when you are creating the budget, you'll list out all of your debts, and then you'll put $300 towards the highest. Once the highest interest debt is paid off, you'll take that old minimum plus that extra amount, go towards your next highest interest debt every single month. So your debt payments, as the minimums are going down, they'll actually stay exactly the same. Once you are debt free, then you will actually start investing all 10% versus splitting it up. Then you are going to focus on your emergency fund. So you want to have 3 to 12 months of expenses, and you'll do a process I call turn a liability into an asset. So this is a shockingly simple way to save. Once you are debt free, you'll actually take what you were spending towards debt, and then that will still be a fixed expense, and you'll throw that in the bank to have your complete emergency fund. And then step number 4 is you'll continue to turn a liability into an asset. So this is how you get the big numbers to save for a down payment. You can outright buy a car with cash, or you can retire early. So we will infuse these into your budget. I am on step number 4, focusing on retiring early, and I have a goal to have 1 million net worth. All right, now for the tea. I wanted to share a dating story. I love talking about money. The second best thing is talking about dating. So word on the street, I am single. I'm available. So I was listening to the radio one day, and this dating expert popped on, and I was like, let's turn this thing up. I need all the help a girl needs, right? And dating is just like a mystery to me. I have no idea what I'm doing. I fumble. She was like, there's one common denominator with the men that you date. And I was like, thinking through like, oh my gosh, this guy had mommy issues. This guy had financial issues. This guy has he was like an addict, like all these different things. I'm like, there's not one common thread to my failed relationships. What do you mean? And then she said, there is one common denominator. And I was like tuning in. I was like, what is it? Tell me the answer. And she said, you are the common denominator. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, how dare her? I was like, I am not the problem. And then I thought through, and I was like, oh my gosh, no one really held me at gunpoint and was like, you need to go out with me Friday night. I do choose who I do or don't date and invest time and energy in. That goes back to money. So like I said, the 3 parts of a budget are fixed, flex, and your income. Most everything that you spend is entirely known, literally fixed, 100% in your control. No one comes up to you at gunpoint and says, you must have this newest, nicest apartment with like cable, jillion stations, and the newest, smartest phone out there, and the most central fancy pants apartment in town. No, you choose most of what you're spending. So as CFO, I really want you to take your power back with your money. I am here to hype you up. Up next, we're going to talk about a best money class ever, Money Win. This is a single income household who paid off $21,000 in just a year's time. So here is their story. They were college sweethearts, and they were super frugal while they were on campus. And then they found, once they graduated, had a lot of wiggle room, and they were spending money here and there on things. And then they had a bad case of lifestyle inflation. They found themselves getting in a car accident, and before they knew it, they owed about $21,000 with some student loans and a car loan. They thought, hey, we kind of need to get things situated. They said there are so many things that people think are mandatory for the monthly budget, but so much of that isn't mandatory. They did through the budget kind of system that we talked about, and they switched cell phone plans. They don't have cable anymore. They started using their apartment gym versus an extra gym. And they found themselves constantly like eating out for lunch. Instead, they started meal planning, using the weekly cash, doing the little things like that. They were able to pay off the $21,000 in just a year. If they can do it, you can too. Now they actually have over 3 months of emergency funds saved, and they are working on the next step in the finance plan, which is the home down payment. I hope this video helps you create a budget from scratch. So if you want to, just fire up the Excel or get that pen and paper. If you want the exact spreadsheet that I use, it's in the link description below. It's a financial day planner, a day plan and financial plan in one. Thank you so much for watching and listening, my yellow groupers. Every show has a dope name that they call their audience, and I'm calling you my yellow groupers. The story was I was in kindergarten and my teacher had different groups for reading levels. There was the red group with the high fast readers, the blue group for mid readers, and then there was the yellow group. I was in the yellow group. So I am the queen of slow starts, feeling behind, feeling overwhelmed, not really having anything come natural to me. And that, my friends, is where my grit was born. I use a yellow highlighter as a reminder, hey, you're not behind. We've got this. We can turn things around. And then in my spreadsheets, I also use a lot of yellow because we're yellow groupers. I would love to hear from you. I am curious, how do you budget? Have you ever created a budget? What are your tips? Spill your financial tea in the comments below if you are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. Did you like this episode? Make sure and like it and share it with your friends who also geek out on money. And drop me a 5-star review. This really helps other people who are on a mission to pay off debt and invest find this show. You may have seen me on CNBC's Millennial Make It, where I shared with the entire world my goal to save 1 million by 45. And I went viral for only spending $124 a month on groceries. Now I'm taking you behind the scenes on my journey from 0 to 1 million. The idea is, instead of teaching you how to budget and build wealth, I'm just going to show you my real numbers. This is my financial tell-all. Here, you'll overcome analysis paralysis with the finance plan. This is the roadmap that you've been looking for to pay off debt, retire a millionaire, even if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you have no idea where to start. Stay tuned. Next episode, I will be sharing my annual review and budget. So we went over the monthly budget, how to create that from scratch. I'll show you the details for the entire upcoming year. Best money class ever, my signature live and virtual personal finance class, only happens every quarter. The next class is starting soon. You want in? You can take the intro to class for free. Head on over to bestmoneyclassever.com or the link in the description below to save your spot. You'll instantly get a free 20-page downloadable with the finance plan, which is your step-by-step plan with money. As always, remember, you only live once, so be smart with your money. Now, I will catch you later. Bye.